Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're live, even though we're not live, with Hashem from Australia that has the YouTube channel Pushing Film. And we're going to be talking, exchanging some questions because honestly, being in Europe and doing content in English, many times one focuses into Europe and the US, and there's a whole community of film shooters all over the world. And Hashem is going to be the first person I want to talk to about, the scene in different places. So Hashem, thank you for joining me.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Nico.
Yeah. Quick first question. So, how's the film situation over there? Like, I don't really hear much. I know I see your channel and a couple others, but like, how is it there in general? The community, shopping, developing, all of that.
The film situation here is actually pretty big. I think it's probably bigger than you might expect, and maybe even as big as I think it is in the US. The only thing is, because Australia is a very large country but a small population, it's very spread out and localized. So, for example, the city I live in, which is Melbourne, is really popular for film photography. We have more than 10 labs, whereas the city I was born, Perth in Western Australia, only has a couple of labs operating, and it's a much smaller scene in terms of film photography. There's a lot less clubs, groups, places to buy film cameras and repair them. Whereas, Melbourne is probably like the most film photography centric city, and Sydney too. And then also, Brisbane and spread out throughout the country. But yeah, our population is a lot smaller. So I think it's largely in part for that.
And is it like hard to source film? Like, I understand labs, there's 10 labs in your city, which that's pretty amazing. But like buying film, I know a lot of people buy abroad. So do you guys have like import duties or things like that and you buy abroad? Or is it more that maybe people don't stock so much? What's the situation in that sense?
When it comes to buying film, we have it all right. So all the major suppliers, so we have, Kodak Alaris, who is, I'm not sure if that's the same for you guys there, but they are the supplier of Kodak film. And because I used to work at a camera store, one of the biggest ones around, which included a film lab with dip and dunk processing, we used to order all our film from the major suppliers, Fuji Film Japan directly, or Kodak Alaris based over here in Sydney, or some of the smaller European suppliers like Meko Direct, or maybe some others. And it was usually pretty good. Like, obviously, there's some films we don't get here that are Japan exclusive, for example, but there's a lot of third-party sellers who import those Japanese films and sell them here. And they're starting to be more and more now in terms of those. I think they're guys who just start off with a business in their bedroom and start selling film online. They'd maybe buy it on B&H. I don't know where they're buying it. And a lot of the rare and specialty films are available online. And a lot of people also do probably buy from overseas for sure, because it is a bit cheaper. We do have that duty that you mentioned. The tax is pretty high. I've heard it's not as high as the European tax, especially the VAT maybe in the UK. So to give you perspective, the retail price on a roll of Portra 400 in 35 mil is 18 Australian dollars. So that's about 12 or 12 US dollars at the moment, which is probably what it cost them there. I'm not sure.
Here in Spain, a roll of 435 would be around €9, which right now probably is like $10 to $11 US. So I think you and me are paying pretty much the same price for film. I think in the US it's more like $7 to $8. Depends on taxes, I'm sure, because it changes state by state. But yeah, no, I thought it was a little higher. I've had comments from people all the way there in Australia saying like they were like 20, well, I guess it was 20 or 18 Australian dollars, but then I never, you always tend to the US dollar when you convert because that's usually where the price. We have the same thing here, like buying film. It's Kodak Alaris is the distributor for the film, even though Kodak Rochester makes it. That's their agreement when they did the bankruptcy. But yeah, I think it's very similar here. I didn't think it was, that easy for you guys. Like I've seen so many people buying abroad that I thought maybe it was a little bit more complicated, the structure. So far, like paper in Ilford, is that simple to get to?
Probably not as simple. Like probably for us in Melbourne and Sydney, there's a few options because we have a company here called C.R. Kennedy, and I think they're actually part of the Ilford company. They're actually, brother and sister company or something like that. where they kind of own Ilford or a part of Ilford, and they have a subsidiary or office here where they are the distributor for a lot of products like Sigma lenses and Ilford products, Patterson products. And they used to be our supplier for Ilford, for example. And they used to stock a huge range of all the Ilford papers and developers, and it was not bad. But I assume if you live in a smaller town, it's pretty hard to get that stuff here. And it's not like you can just walk into a store and there'd be a whole section like you have in Japan, for example. I don't know if you've ever been there, but you can walk in and find huge, amounts of developing equipment on the shelf and papers and
yeah,
in the food chemistry, which is hard to find here.
No, yeah, I think it's...
And then some of the European ones, like ADOX, for example, people would import that as well.
Yeah, ADOX is also not something you find on the shelf here. And same thing, like photo stores here, maybe the big ones have a couple selection, but not a big, like most is imported from online. Thankfully, European distributors, like you said, Mago Direct, Photo Impex, have like a, abundant supply of all that. Then I would like to ask you about, like you said, the community is big. Do you guys have like meetings? Like I used to host meetings. Well, I actually still have a bunch of friends here locally, but like, do you guys host meetings? Do you have like clubs? Do you do like photo walks? Is that something that happens there? I mean, I'm sure it happens all around the world, but how is it over there?
Yeah, it's pretty big here actually. And I feel like it used to be a more niche thing. Maybe when I started working at the camera store I mentioned, that was probably 5-6 years ago. If you think about this resurgence, it's been going for a while, and it's kind of like a wave. And maybe between 2010 and 15, it was still young. But Melbourne had certain places that would organize photo walks, and there's a place called Film Never Die, for example, that we have here. That was just a little a film photography store started by one guy in his garage. He eventually got a store, and he started to hold, club meetings, and it became a lab eventually as well. And there's little things like that. And I've organized workshops through Pushing Film. There's a lot of people besides me who do photo walks and workshops just through their own, just for the fun of it. And paid workshops probably happen as well. So it's actually not bad. Like even over in Sydney, I think Melbourne and Sydney, the largest cities here in Australia, would have a really good range of options for enthusiasts to meet other film photography enthusiasts. So it's not bad. It's pretty good here, I would say. We're lucky compared to someone in a small town.
No, yeah, sounds pretty good. Changing a little bit to the YouTube part of what you do. I remember you started 3 years ago. It was you and Nick. Did Nick fall off the channel and you continued, or how did that happen? And I can see that the first video, I watched it this morning just to give me a refresher, that you guys started, to help the community, to show more, to bring all these things. Yeah. Like everybody's first video is, the first video. But like, how has it been from what you started basically till today? And tell me a bit about Nick, and is he still around for the channel?
Yeah, so Nick is a good friend of mine. He's still around. He's still, I still see him every now and then. There was a time when I used to live in an apartment very close to his workplace, which was a cafe. So he's part owner of a chain of coffee shops, cafes. And I used to see him all the time, when I was coming downstairs for coffee, and we used to therefore hang out a lot more. So when we started the channel, which is reflected in that first video you watched, it was very casual. We didn't have much of a plan. We just thought, let's do this. Let's have fun. Let's connect with the community. There was not another single Australian-based YouTube channel. We used to watch the guys from the US, like Ted Forbes and Matt Day, who was already doing his stuff at the time. And we thought, let's just do it. So we did it, and we didn't know what we were getting into in terms of how much effort, as it requires to make these videos, and editing, and, dumping bad cuts and scenes and whatever. So we made 5 or 6 videos and started to show how much effort it takes, but I was still obviously really passionate about it. But the thing is, Nick became more and more engrossed in his work, and more requirements came on. So his time commitment became, 6 days a week for work. And it was eventually I would also have moved out of that apartment. So he couldn't really commit the time. And I really wanted to keep the channel alive because I loved the idea of it. I loved, the feedback I got while I was working at the store. I would get people come in and say, hey, you're the guy who made that video. it really helped me out trying to load a camera, and I watched it and I learned a lot from your video and whatever. And that's what really it's all about for me, is just that sort of, as you know, the feedback you get from people, or how you feel like you might be helping even just one or two people through a video that takes you a day or a week. It makes it all worth it. So that's the story, and that's how I'm keeping it alive. I'm just doing it on my own now, but I still tell Nick, hey man, I got to get you on a video again someday. So he'll be back, hopefully.
No, I can totally relate. The fact, like you said, like I started thinking you pointed a camera at yourself and it all looked good and sounded good. And then you realize very fast that it's not like that. The first moment you import that first footage and you're like, oh, there's echo. And you realize that those people you were criticizing for being, not so good, you were like, wow, they really are much better than I expected. And I understand the time like consuming, making videos, creating content. It's complicated. So how has it changed like your perspective? Because when one starts a channel on, YouTube, on film photography especially, one has these ideas, like that it's going to be so effortless, that you're going to do all these new series and things that you maybe haven't seen or you've seen, but you want to give it your twist. Has it changed a lot as you started and kept on going? Do you change because you feel it's more effort, or maybe the analytics? Some people are analytics driven. How has it changed from when you started in that sense, like what you wanted out of YouTube for yourself and for the community, and what you see today?
Well, the biggest thing for me is I've gained experience, and there's a lot you learn just watching yourself speak, for example. And it's funny, on the note you mentioned earlier, you look at the footage and it's not only the sound problems and footage problems you seem to find, but also things like, I went on for too long in this video about this subject, and it takes me watching, after doing 10 videos to realize that, yeah, maybe I need to focus more on how I structure this topic first, and writing scripts, for example, have to become more concise if you're writing a script at all. And it's totally fine to wing it in a video as well, but then you still need to come in with some kind of approach and make sure that whatever message you're delivering is delivered as clearly as possible. Because I know when I'm watching a video, it's very easy to lose people's attention these days, which is just the world we live in. We all have shorter attention spans. There has been that. And like, even though I'm not, focused on the analytics, of course now I do pay attention to that, in terms of realizing things like, hey, most of my audience is actually in the US, because as we spoke before, we talked about how a lot of it is US based. They do dominate the scene and a lot of things like that. And that might influence, for example, I should make my videos more broad. I shouldn't maybe focus and assume that only people from Melbourne or Australia are watching it. But there is a majority US audience, and then it's the UK, and then it's Australia third, and Germany and whatever. So, and little things like that, I think they influence how you deliver your stuff. And I think it's good to have that worldwide reach, for example. Is your audience similar, I'm assuming, from the US, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's like 35% is the US, and then it starts like the next one's maybe 9% UK. I have a lot of Spain because, of course, friendships and stuff, and people that know me personally watch it, even though they usually don't understand a word I say, but they do watch and subtitle. But yeah, I think it's very similar. I think the scene is, really, really big in the US for the numbers and for everything. And yeah, I do the same thing. Like, I started Spanish and English, and after a while I was like, okay, Spanish takes me exactly the same amount of time, but I don't feel I'm getting the feedback, even though I do want to help, and I help locally out of the camera, but like, it's like, okay, I can't do this all the time in both languages. So for now I'm focusing in English. But yeah, US is just massive compared to everything else.
Well, that's really good that you have that ability to reach a much broader audience, and it sounds like, majority of people in Spain don't really speak as much English as you, and you seem to be perfectly fluent, almost, native. Is that due to having lived overseas, or having, learned at a much younger age?
No, my mother's British, so I was born and raised bilingual in Spain. I've never lived anywhere else. And my wife I met here, and she's American, North American from the US. So basically, that's why my accent is more American nowadays. But yeah, no, it helps to talk. Like I've always read everything in English on the forums because, I mean, believe like, sad or not, but like I think like 70 or 80% of the internet looks to be English. There's probably a lot more, but you don't look for it. I don't look for German stuff. But like, and then I would read all the forums and then translate it to a Spanish forum, which is where I was. So I've always been doing the dual game. And then it was like, okay, creating content's great, but like at the end, you also have to find the way to keep on creating. Like you said, the time, the money, the effort, the equipment, and you're like, that English content is helping me. So I got to focus on that for now.
Nice, yeah. And I'm sorry if I trailed off before in answering that question, but
No worries.
yeah, I think it's just been a growing experience, and I'm not sure if I missed any other part of the question. Feel free to remind me, but it definitely has come a long way in terms of it being a learning experience, and I think that's one of the best things about doing something like starting a YouTube channel or a podcast or whatever project you might embark on is you'd be surprised what you can get out of it. And I don't know, I still don't know where it's going. When I make a video, I often like don't have a particular plan that goes any further than the next few episodes. And I have a notepad with a bunch of possible ideas, and that's all it really is for me, is like, what can I do next that might be interesting or fun or informative or even just entertaining?
Yeah, that was going to be one of my next questions, which this happened to me in the UK. I went for a meeting there, and I was with one of the negative feedback guys, Aslan, who is maybe might watch, and if he is, send him hellos. But he basically sat me down and was like, "Hey, Nico, where do you want your YouTube channel to go?" And I was like, "Wait, like I live video to video. Like I've never really thought, where do I want it to go?" And that was something I was going to ask you, but you've already said it's very similar to you. It's like a couple of videos, just kind of throw it out there. You have fun, enjoy, and giving to the community and hearing back, I think, is what we enjoy the most.
Well, it's pretty cool that you have the news segment. I think that's a structured thing that you have going there.
Yeah, that started as sort of a joke, and the whole look of it is sort of a joke. And it became so popular that everybody knows me for the news. And then it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll continue doing this. So I'm happy doing it. It requires like 2 full days of work, which is crazy every week.
Wow.
But it does bring me a lot of joy. And I know that so far I haven't seen any other place that does the same kind of job. So as long as I don't see anyone else taking over, I'll continue. And if someone ever makes a better job, I have no problem saying, hey, you take that part of YouTube, I'll do something else.
No, man, just keep doing it because, what you're doing is uniquely you, and whether it starts as a joke or not, the look and everything of it is, I think, what makes it unique and what makes people kind of come back for more. So even if someone comes and starts a new film photo news, I think you should still do yours regardless.
Yeah, I probably will because I have too much fun, and it's we'll talk about it at a different time, but like it brings you to see a scene that most people don't see, because the film scene, you see it growing, you see people helping each other, but then when you go behind to the manufacturer side of things, you start realizing it's not always so pretty, and business is business, which is good and not so good sometimes, but it still makes me want to show more and give people a bit more of a broad audience. And a lot of people have even told me like, hey, the news look like it's all sponsored. I'm like, it's not sponsored. Like if you in Australia came out with a new device, I don't know, a pink gaffer tape that would, develop your film in something else, I would totally show it. I don't have a problem. I think the more we see all these worldwide, initiatives, the better. But I'm not going to sidetrack to my side of the stuff. Let's keep on going.
Okay.
I want to ask you something. One thing that happened to me, and I want to know how you feel, is when I started YouTube, like I was doing a lot of personal work, my own photography and projects. And then when you start shooting for YouTube, you start shooting sometimes for YouTube content. Has that happened to you? Do you have like separate lines of work? I do know you do work as photography out of YouTube. Do you still shoot for yourself only and then put it into YouTube, or you shoot for YouTube only and keep your personal away?
For me, the bias goes heavily towards personal work. And if it happens to be good for YouTube, it will make it onto the channel. Unless I'm reviewing a film, for example, that's been sent to me, like I've done a few reviews for Lomography, fun, casual, or something where I find out about a new process or a device or software, and I think I want to learn about this, but I also think a lot of other people will benefit, so I'll do this for YouTube, and I will shoot the roll with the intention to put on YouTube. But first and foremost, I mostly shoot what I like to shoot and make And then if I feel like it can also, hit two birds with one stone, make it good for YouTube as well, I'll do that. And a perfect example of that is the vlogs that I end up putting on the channel, even if they're much later, sometimes, a year or two later. They are just, the holiday I might have enjoyed with my partner Sarah, and we just take the photos we love to take, and I try and twist it into a watchable, somewhat entertaining vlog of our trip to, we did Japan, Nepal, Bangladesh, and whatever. And it works. People, I think, relate to that sort of personal side. There's enough out there that's very commercial and structured and rigid. And I don't really want to be like that. I want to share some sense of my own personal, life or personality in the channel. And that's what I like about yours too, actually, because you have photos, you show photos of your kids and that you do with a new medium format camera or something like that, and I think that it's cool to see.
No, yeah, my thing is like I want to shoot a lot more, but the thing is family is the only time I have that's not videoing or working in my normal job. So it's like I'm not gonna go and make a model come over and miss my family again. So it's like, okay, I got a new film to shoot, new camera. It's like, come on, kids, let's go do a video. As long as they still want to be on the screen, they're fine. And something you said I think was very interesting is that you sometimes do a process that you're learning yourself as you do it, but you also putting it online. And that thing is something that you've probably heard people, in the comment section that think that when we're putting something on YouTube, we have to be experts. And it's very much the other way around. I put a lot of stuff on YouTube that I think people in the comments will help me learn, and also they'll learn from my mistakes. And I love the idea of learn as you go and show as you learn, And I think a lot of people get that sense when they're trying to get a new YouTube channel started. It's like, oh, I've got to be a master of black and white printing or a master of black and white developing to show it. And I really like the idea of you show it and people can feedback and then you can change it. And I love that approach of trying something new and putting it online.
Totally. Yeah, it's completely like that. And that's why I always encourage anyone to start a podcast or a YouTube channel or anything. You'll learn so much. And one example of that recently was the video I did on shooting Instax film in a Pentax 6.7. Something many people have probably tried through experimentation. I always thought about the idea. I thought it would be cool. I kind of tripped on the idea through experimentation. I said, I'll just try it. And I messed up the first few and I still didn't get it right. But when I decided this will be cool to make a video for once I get it right, it really drove me to actually experiment more, find a system that I could deliver to people clearly of how to do it, somewhat easily. And I learned how to do it pretty much through wanting to make a video. And that's how it is a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think people don't understand sometimes the research you do to try to help. Like, it won't be perfect sometimes, but you try your best. And that's important to know that, we're trying to do that, even though it doesn't look like it when you finish the video sometimes.
Yeah. That's the magic, And then earlier on, I think we didn't have the magic. We just sort of went in and then said a bunch of things that some of it might have been wrong. And then you always get those people blasting you in the comments saying, no, you got this wrong, or it's barely even wrong. It's just, your own subjective opinion sometimes. But I've learned you have to be very careful with what you say as well, and as not to come across as not knowing what you're talking about, because people will catch you on it. Not that I try and worry too much, but I can't help it, when someone calls you out in the comments or something.
I've almost done a disclaimer. Remember those movies that used to have the disclaimer, the FBI, don't record. FBI, I was going to put I'm not an expert. I'm not Ilford, engineer or Kodak engineer. I'm just a guy in Spain making videos. Take this with a pinch of salt, But it's exactly. The internet, it's how it goes. So I got a question. You made a video a while ago that you were going to stop your job at the camera store and start doing your full-time photography business, which I'm guessing maybe it's I thought it was wedding and editorial, maybe some architectural if I'm not wrong, or what do you call it, real estate. So how has that been? Because I'm in the same place where I'm thinking of maybe leaving my day job and pursuing more of a photography full-time. How has it been for you? And this is a question for me. I don't mind if the audience doesn't like it so much. Just I'm curious myself.
So, when I started to do that, it was something that a lot of people would react to and say, oh, really? Are you sure you're going to be able to do it? And can you do it? And I'd been putting it off for so long that I thought, whatever, let's just give it a try. And I didn't dive straight into the deep end. I kept a casual job that I would work on a freelance basis doing, photo booths at events. And the short answer, since quitting about a year or two ago now, is that's been going well. And I've been, starting to book more weddings and also even getting into wedding videography, not just photography, through my partner, and she does video, and we're starting to team up and do weddings together, corporate events. Until recently with the coronavirus, that's kind of changing the situation, obviously, for a lot of us working in freelance. Mm-hmm. And I also started to do teaching at the same camera store I used to work at. They have a school, like a little media school section. And I really started to grow and enjoy that too, but that's also on hiatus. Maybe next month we're going to resume classes. So, ignoring the pandemic, it's been going well, but it's not like you instantly quit your job and you get all the jobs if freelance jobs come at you. No, it's a lot of hard work, and I'm still not anywhere near where I need to be. And that's why keeping that casual job on the side is still something I need to do. And now that there's even less work in terms of where it is, I might need to reevaluate things and go back and, work a normal job somewhere. So either way, I still will follow my passion and still do events and shoot for myself and do the YouTube channel, hopefully. So that won't change. But yeah, the climate is what's affecting the work situation.
Does the YouTube help in any way? Like, I know that, to me at least, it's helping quite a bit. It's like a side job that kind of helps me,
Mm-hmm.
Pursue buying film and buying equipment and traveling sometimes when possible. Is that helping you out, or does it give you more time to do YouTube? Like, did you quit in a way to have more time for YouTube, or did that come due to recent events?
Well, no, I didn't quit to make time for YouTube. I was thinking of leaving because I worked in retail and service, at the film lab or the repair center of the camera store. And that's something that I'd been burnt out from for a long time, and I wanted to quit. So when I quit, it was with the motivation to do YouTube, or with the motivation to become a freelancer and, to be my own boss. The YouTube came as a bonus, but in the first year, like, the money from YouTube is next to nothing. Maybe in recent times, I wouldn't say it helps in any major way, but if there's a little bit of trickle income that comes in from YouTube that I say, all right, great. This is actually, in the last year, especially since I've become more consistent, I'd say, with posting. There's been just a little bit, even though, the time and expense I spend on equipment and doing everything is far bigger than that, whatever, a few $100 you get a month or every few months, even, depending on if you have a good, period or not. Yeah. It's not in the thousands. Like, you look at these big YouTubers who do it full time, and they're probably getting sponsorships from Squarespace and this guy, and they sell merchandise. And if I was to start doing that, I would say I could call YouTube part of my actual income, but yeah, probably just a side thing at the moment. And I wouldn't mind seeing where that goes, but it's not my primary motivation.
That's good to hear. Like, I think we all have a realization throughout starting and posting of where you want it to go. And I had a moment where I was like, I don't really mind not being a photographer. It's never been my main goal. I just wanted to share. And after a while, I was like, I'd be very happy just sharing on YouTube and having my own photography as a personal side. And I think that's one of the things one has to think when they're getting into it is, where do you want it to go in sense of, like, for you and for, income wise and time wise. And I was very happy to be like, I'd be happy to just be a YouTuber for film photography and have the time to do my own personal projects. I do know a lot of people that start YouTube want to be or are photographers, and that's awesome. I just don't see myself doing jobs for other people most of the time. Like, I could do it, but I'm not one to, like, if you tell me go shoot a wedding, I'd be like, okay, it's a job. But, like, I don't know if I would be able to do that as a full-time operation. But yeah, anything else that you would want to add in terms of your YouTube channel? Where is it going? What's, like, the next video? I saw the Canon EOS 3 video a couple of days ago. Anything else coming out?
Well, in terms of, just following up to what you said before, I would like the channel to grow in that sense, and I completely agree. What you're saying is that I think it would be awesome to actually, because I already enjoy doing this, whether there was like no money, I would still enjoy it just as much. But if it got to the point where I could call it a job, I would definitely embrace that, because I'd be, working a job I enjoy, even if I'm still doing freelance photography. But that there's a big time commitment. And what I feel I want to take the channel in the direction of next is to kind of just just keep increasing the quality a little bit. I want to involve more of my partner, Sarah. She's been in a few videos, and I think it's really good that I'm lucky that I have her, who is also passionate about the same thing. It's not common that, your partner is into the exact same thing in terms of, a niche hobby like film photography. And she's a great photographer and, has a lot to say from her own perspective. And I'm always trying to include her more in the channel if I can. She's a bit resistant, and she has, for example, her Minolta X700 that I keep saying, you should do a review on this camera. You've shot hundreds of rolls on it. You've got some amazing photos. People would like to hear your perspective, because it's not mine. It's not the same old one. And even the vlogs and stuff we do. So more of that, more connecting with the community, doing like what you and I are doing right now. And I think that's been one little blessing in disguise from coronavirus pandemic, is that it's getting people to think outside the box. And I'd never done live streams before, never even done an interview like this live with anyone before, haven't even done a video interview for a job. And yet, I'm being pushed to do things like that, which I'm loving. I think it's really good, connecting with more of the community, doing what you said earlier, connecting those dots between, you've got the US, the film guys here, and then you got the European noise film and Robin and like a lot of you guys there. And we're starting to slowly connect together, and I love that. I want to be part of that. And that's a big driving force, I think, for me in the channel. And, everything else is just technical stuff. Make the episodes better, make them shorter and sweeter and polished, and because I learn about that. I learn about video, which is great. And that's pretty much it. And like, I want to leave some, down to mystery, just to see where it goes. More travel, ideally. I want to travel across the side of the world. I've never been to Europe. So the day I do that, I'll definitely do a lot of vlogging and photography.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I had a whole setup of plans to travel and do what we're doing right now, but in person. And basically everything right now is in the freezer waiting to see what happens and if I can start again. But yeah, like, I think the connecting the dots between the community members and it sounds horrible. I don't like the term, but it is the term, is content creators in the film community. Like, I think the more we kind of like get together and we link is better for the community in general, for us in general, because we grow. Because you see how I do things and I see how you do things. I've learned more in an hour sitting with an editor that is editing something with like me than doing 100 tutorials online. Like, that's the cool stuff. Like, so hopefully this is the first of many ways to see other people across the world. And I like the fact that, as far as you are, at the end we all have the same issues, the same problems, the same passions, and it's so interesting to see.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining me today.
It is, yeah.
I know it's getting late for you guys over there, and but yeah, let's hope we see each other soon. And thanks for joining me on the live stream. Well, live stream, which I'll edit a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
thanks for having me on, Nico.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any comments, leave a comment below. Do subscribe, which you probably are already, to Pushing Film. To see some more great content from the other side of the world, a different perspective too. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.